You buy a TIA Portal, which is the PLC programming software from Siemens. The TIA Portal product description states that you have purchased a floating license for one user. Now, what does that mean? So what is a floating license, and how is it different from a standard software license? In short, a standard software license is for exclusive use, whereas a floating license is for shared use. You buy a floating software license when you want to share the use of software amongst a group of users. If you buy a standard license, the software can only be installed on one computer, and it is accessible to one user only. But when you buy a floating license, the software can be installed on a network of computers, allowing access to multiple users. In other words, a standard software license allows only one user, but a floating license will allow a group of users to access the software. For example, let's say you buy a TIA Portal, which is the PLC programming software from Siemens. The TIA Portal product description states that you have purchased a floating license for one user. Now, what does that mean? It simply means that you can install this software on your office or home network, and then all the people who have access to that network can use that software. But here's the catch. There can only be one user at a time. That means if you're using the software and another colleague wants access, they'll need to wait until you are done and signed out. Why can't my colleague access the software while I'm using it? Because this is a floating license for only one user. It is a shared license, not an exclusive license. If you want the software to be used by two users at the same time, you need to buy a floating license for two users. In this case, a colleague can also use the software even if you are using it. Why? Because this is a floating license for two users. If you want more users to be able to access that software at the same time, you just need to buy a floating license for more users. Hopefully we've answered any questions you may have had about a floating license, but you may still have a question about when a floating license is needed instead of a standard license. Well, let's say you have 4 PLC programmers in your company that need to use the TIA Portal, but not all at the same time. In this case, instead of buying 4 standard licenses, you can buy a floating license for one user, which is always less expensive. The software can now be shared among these 4 PLC programmers. So, in summary, a standard license is for the exclusive use of the software, and a floating license is for the shared use of the software, which is often more cost-effective. Want to learn PLC programming in an easy-to-understand format and take your career to the next level? Head on over to realpars.com.